are these people?
Last story, and probably more important than Marianne dropping out.
Far more important.
Way more important is Gaza. Well, we talked about Gaza ad nauseum, and I honestly feel in a way terrible. I'm just over it in terms of how saturated like this issue has become, but more importantly, just over like the effects that nobody is necessarily talking about, just the day-to-day of Gazans of what they have to go through. Like, it's fine to talk about it in terms of, you know, the bombing and all that kind of stuff or whatever, or displacement, whatever, but people are not necessarily thinking about like the effects from that. Like, what is the day-to-day life of Gazans on the ground and what they have to deal with. I don't think it's talked about enough. We just talk about it like more as a theory, you know, like, oh, we have to give them aid, you know, and all that kind of stuff. But thinking about it more in theory is not helping them right now. And to the point, last week we talked about how women, you know, like have to use pieces of tents in order as women bodily products in order to take care of themselves. This story, like we're going to talk about tonight, they have no food. Well, not to say they have no food, that they don't have enough food is probably more accurate. So just to give some context, let's watch this clip from Al Jazeera that kind of goes into a little bit more, and then we'll unpack it after that.
Desperation is growing by the day, with hunger becoming unbearable for many across Gaza. Thousands of Palestinians surround a truck delivering aid in Gaza City, but there's not enough for everyone. Famine is now a reality for many, and health workers warn it's one that will likely get worse.
The situation is tragic. The word famine doesn't do justice. The word misery isn't enough. People are eating fodder. They're eating animals. Our water, electricity and internet has been cut. Food and flour is limited. Surviving is just so challenging.
Many displaced families who have lost everything over the last 3 months have to wait for days for a single sack of flour.
We don't have jobs and we don't have money. The price of a sack of flour used to be $10. Now it's sold for $200. We came here to face death just for the sake of having one bag of flour.
Some people have been killed while waiting for aid. The Gaza Health Ministry says Israeli forces recently killed at least 20 Palestinians who were lined up and waiting for food deliveries. A sense of despair is spreading.
We are starving. We have to eat animal food. We don't care about death anymore. They can kill me. I just want to have a bag of flour to give my family.
With little to no chance of getting flour, some people are using animal fodder to make their bread. That's until it also runs out. Palestinian workers say their options are vanishing.
If you go out to get flour, you will die. And if you stay at home, you will also die from hunger. We started eating rice and lentils, and now the rice has run out.
UN officials say a quarter of Gaza's population of 2.3 million men, women, and children is facing starvation. And as the war continues, more Palestinians are likely to face a similar fate. Katia Lopez-Odoyan, Al Jazeera.
Make sure to subscribe to our channel to get the latest news from Al Jazeera.
Do. Subscribe to Al Jazeera. They do okay sometimes.
Yeah. So let's unpack this a little bit more. So more on Al Jazeera. This is written by Mohammed. Mhawish, I guess that's how you
Mhawish,
I guess.
Mhawish.
Where he reports, this is him. This is an essay he wrote. We are being starved, dispatched from Gaza City as Israeli assault continues. I don't write to engender sorrow. Had sorrow moved people, we wouldn't be where we are now, writes Mohammed Mhawish from Gaza City. So he continues. For us in Gaza City, enduring the daily struggles like staying safe, fighting hunger, and protecting ourselves against the biting cold is a war in of itself, as Israel's assault on Gaza grinds on for the past 120 days. Hundreds of thousands of people have lost their homes at a time when that was all they had. Then after that came the loss of a simple place to shelter, as Israel bombed them all: hospitals, schools, clinics, and any open space where civilians gathered. The entire population of Gaza has been displaced. The entire population. After our house was bombed, I was no longer just a witness to the thousands of people fleeing their homes to find safety wherever they could. We went to the United Nations shelter in the north of Gaza. My family and I gathered whatever would help us survive and becoming displaced like our country people. There are about 600,000 people in North Gaza grappling with loss amid deprivation, starvation, and disease because they do not want to leave their land. It breaks my heart, but I have to admit we've lost the sense of what home means.
Mm-hmm.
Just finding the bare minimum space and shelter from the elements we need to rest has become a journey of heartache and pain, our misery daily routine of looking around to see where we can possibly sleep. My family, father, mother, sister, wife, and 2-year-old son, and I are seeking relative refuge in the parking garage of a destroyed apartment building. We dread looking at the weather in these winter conditions. All day we're trying to find a forecast, breathless, worried that rain would be expected that night. On rainy nights, I take off my coat and wrap it around my baby, making it both a blanket and protection for him against the cold, with hope and prayer that it will be enough for his small body. Beyond shelter is the struggle for food. I cannot recall the last proper meal my son had. Wheat is nowhere to be found, so we have been using animal field grade barley and corn to grind our flour for bread. Even these alternatives are scarce, but they are only means to get through the day. It's not like there is the space and security to grow your own food either, with the bombs and intentional choking off our supplies, even water. The aid entering this besieged enclave is very limited and cannot cover our daily basic needs. So we have had to try to survive for these past 4 months with no incomes or livelihoods as the prices of essentials skyrocket, if you can find them at all. Palestinians received food rations at a donation point at a camp for displaced people in Rafah in the southern Gaza Strip on February 2nd, 2004. The situation in the north is much more dire. As a result, starvation is beyond widespread in the north of Gaza. Babies, children, adults, and the elderly are all suffering from the lack of food. An ounce of coffee used to be 10 shekels, around $2.75, and now it costs 120 shekels, $33. A liter of drinking water that costs a shekel, less than 30 cents, is now 15 shekels, $4. If you secure food, you still have to cook it, and with no cooking gas, people are combing the ruins to find anything they can burn for a cooking fire, exposing themselves to bombing at any time.
Mm-hmm.
And so when every hour of the day is spent either looking for food or a means to make it, we cannot always worry about staying safe. Medical service in North Gaza have been nearly inoperable since the beginning of the ground invasion, and now there's little more than first aid services for the injured or those in need of intensive medical care. Israel has arrested and killed hundreds of medical personnel, bombed hundreds of medical facilities of various sizes out of service, or depleted their capacity with cuts of fuel and water. For the little that remains functional, how would the wounded get there when at least 122 ambulances have been targeted and bombed? Then comes the danger of the streets: airstrikes, soldiers kidnapping Palestinians or shooting them dead, and the mountains of rubble across Gaza. Even basic medications like antibiotics and painkillers have been scarce for the thousands suffering injuries from Israeli attacks, and so they get infections and respiratory diseases. People need to understand that the number of Palestinians killed in this aggression is much higher than what is being reported. Palestinians die from kidney failure, from cancer, from disease, from a lack of prenatal care. All of these are not recorded. People could have been people could have helped. People could have been helped had there been enough equipment and medicine. People can be saved, but there seems to be little intent to save them. I report from my phone when I manage battery and access to the internet or phone service, an endeavor more difficult than ever in North Gaza. Banks, post offices, transportation, and telecommunications all do not work. The list is endless. How can I capture or explain to the world, the ones that even read our words, that what is being endured is not only painful, but avoidable? All calls for support are not for abstract words of diplomatic solidarity, but for urgent action that helps us feel human in the eyes of the world. With every passing hour, fewer and fewer Palestinians in Gaza can appeal to the world. Every day brings more death, and the rest of us remain trying to fight off death. Even basic medications like antibiotics and painkillers have been scarce for the thousands suffering injuries from Israeli attacks, he writes. I do not write of the struggle we are living to engender sorrow. Had sorrow moved people, we wouldn't be where we are now. I'll outline our struggle because, at this point, we have either already been killed or are in the process of being killed slowly. We are appealing to the healthy ones, the ones with a bed to rest sleep on, the ones whose voices can be heard outside the slaughterhouse. I write to equip you with the knowledge of what humanity is undergoing. We, the Palestinians of Gaza, are being starved, are sleeping on the streets with no cover from airstrikes. We are being denied our humanity by an army that continues to inflict some of the most painful and inhumane practices of war we know in our modern day. It's time for the world to defy the abuses, to give regard to human life, to keep it simple and basic, like the needs we require to maintain breath.
Yep.
Hate reading that, but
Ooh.
you know, as he said, and as I said, like, I think the problem that we have with our politicians in the US especially is that they talk about the idea of giving aid, you know, but not actually doing the things to ensure that some of the basic needs in Gaza is being met. Like, yeah, food might be getting there. The question is how much, if anything at all. And then, like, there's nowhere to cook it. And then if you have the money, it's super expensive due to inflation. So as he said, it's like, we're still dying. It's just a matter of dying slowly, which is exactly what the Israeli proclamation wants to happen. So, you know, so it's the idea, yeah, you can give food, but is it going to be enough? And then how you're going to sustain yourself with infrastructure that's totally decimated.
Well,
It's what
meanwhile,
people are not necessarily
they're
talking
blocking
about.
aid. They're attacking people in trucks bringing aid. They're attacking people on boats bringing aid. Like, you know, and they tried to stop UNRWA from being an aid organization there as well. So, yeah, I mean, it's just par for the course over there. So,
Right.
I hope we still have some journalists left when this is all over there. That would be nice.
Right.
So, but
we do have a friend to the show. I'm not going to say who, for their safety.
yeah,
But they are planning to
head
go.
over there. Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
So, or at least when I talk to them, they have plans to. So we'll keep you updated to see if they do actually end up over there, and hopefully, if they're willing, being able to interview them to see, you know, tell us about the reality of what it is, you know, in Gaza. Because we're not, I mean, it's great that we hear what's happening on the ground, but it's too far few. And then, like, often it's not being reported on. So
yeah.
just having more, you know, just having more people being able to share what's happening down than just the reality of what we kind of like in
Well,
this story. I think just a way to kind of help humanize the situation in Gaza and in the West Bank, a lot more than what is being
in Syria and Lebanon, and
exactly. Yeah.
So let us know what you think. Leave a comment, like and subscribe, do all the things. Try to get us to 2K. We're getting there. The number's going up. So, but yeah.